Welcome to the Bite Size Storytelling Show, brought to you by Commaful.com, where we bring you techniques, advice, and stories that will help you on your writing journey. Without further ado, please give a warm welcome to our special guest.
Hi Commaful, thank you so much for inviting me to your portal to talk about writing, to be able to interact with your members and fellow writers about my writing experience is a privilege for me, and I must start by thanking you for it. I have gone through your website. I think it's a wonderful platform that you have created. It's a beautiful environment where writers merge, share ideas, publish their works of fiction, their poems, their essays, and even some of their very funny tweets on your portal. And to be able to create an environment where writers get an opportunity to express themselves with fellow writers and also to seek constructive feedback, constructive criticism that helps them grow is a beautiful idea. So kudos to all of you for that. Now coming to why I am here is to talk about my writing experience. I am very conscious about not using the word advice because I don't believe in giving advice to fellow writers. I think writing is something that is very unique to each writer, and I am just here to share my unique experience with all of you. Now, I have been writing for about 14 plus years. I started writing my first manuscript in early 2006, so it's been close to 15 years now. And to summarize my entire experience in a 4 or 5 minute video is going to be hard. So for this video, I'm going to break my speech into 3 segments. These are what I believe are my 3 tenets of writing principles. Number 1 is intent. Number 2 is the hustle. And number 3 is acceptance of your work. So I'm going to talk about these 3 one by one. Let's start with intent. Why is this so important? We need to understand when we embark upon a writing process, how essential is writing to us. Do we just like to talk about it, or does writing our own words on paper really mean something to us? Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, I've got wonderful stories brewing in my head, but I just don't have the time to write. That's a bit of an anticlimax to a great conversation, because you might have wonderful stories in your head, but they are no good if they haven't come out on paper, right? So if writing is very dear to you, if you're very passionate about it, it is very important that you find the time in the first place to put your words to paper. Otherwise, they really mean nothing. Your stories mean nothing unless you have given your reader an opportunity to read them. So, and I also don't kind of buy the argument that, I lead a busy schedule, I have a busy schedule, a busy lifestyle, so I don't find time to write. Because if you truly value something, you will always end up finding the time to do it. If you like going out with your family for dinners on weekends, or if you like the occasional movie on Netflix, you have found time to do these things. Similarly, if writing is just as important, find the time to write. So with the time angle out of the way, the other thing that people talk about is, I've got a great idea, I've got a good concept, but I'm not writing because I don't know how to structure it into a publishable manuscript. So again, here the issue is we seem to sometimes jump the gun when it comes to writing. The very first principle to writing should be putting some words down on paper. It's very rare that the first words or the first line of your initial draft will end up being the first line of your published book. Each word, each sentence that you end up writing in your manuscript goes through several dozens of edits before it actually sees the light of the day as a book. So don't worry so much about structure and semantics before you have actually put some words to paper. Think about it as an organic process of building a story. You start by writing some words. The sentences could be very chaotic. The characters could be undefined. But if you keep applying thought to those characters and to the story, you will ultimately get to a point where you're able to sell it as a readable manuscript to a publisher. So start by putting those words, start by getting your intent right before you worry about semantics or about the publishing process or about should I go via a literary agent or should I go direct to publishers. All those are things that you worry about when you have actually gotten to at least past 80% of your manuscript. That's what I feel. So that was about intent. The second thing that I will talk about is the hustle. When my first book was released back in December 2007, I remember someone back in India telling me that now that your first book is out, the rest of your books being published will be a cakewalk for you. In my 15 odd years of writing, I haven't heard a bigger lie. I think the struggle really starts once you are published for the first time, because that is when your own expectation of yourself is, I need to do better next time. So that hustle never stops. When my first book was out, I'll be honest with all of you, I got a little arrogant. At that time, the literature market in India was still nascent. There were writers, but the writing market had not burgeoned as it has today. Today, the Indian literature market is flooded with great writers, and if you want to be able to sustain yourself in that market, it's a constant hustle. You need to constantly fight to create space for yourself. It's like standing in a jam-packed train. You in order to be able to breathe, you need to elbow around, and that's exactly what you need to do in this market as well. So it's not just sufficient to be a great writer. It is equally important to be able to talk about what a great writer you are. It's very important to let go of your humility and to be a bit shameless while promoting your work. And it is extremely important to stand from the rooftops and shout about the books that you have written and get people to pay attention to your work, because writing is one matter, and then getting your work read is another matter altogether. And even more difficult than that is to sell your work and to monetize it. So at each of these stages, you have to keep fighting, you have to keep jostling for space, and to make sure that your identity stays, or actually your identity keeps growing and keeps getting more and more attractive and appealing to your target audience. So that was about hustle. And the third thing is acceptance. At the end of the day, your book is a work of art. It is something subjective. It is not science that, it's not digital technology of, a 0 or 1 switch. There are going to be people who will like your work. There will be people who will dislike your work. Don't take the criticism to heart. Try and learn from it. Criticism is something that needs to be separated from trolling. There'll be a lot of trolls who will, have a go at you just because you're a popular writer. But you need to be able to differentiate good criticism from weak criticism and focus only on the good criticism, which is feedback that allows you to grow and to think about what you could have done better with this story and what you can do better with your next story. So think about what is constructive feedback to you. Ask people in the industry, ask people who are writers themselves and who have some credence to be able to guide you on how you can make your story better next time. And I think places like Commaful, for instance, are a wonderful portal where you can get such feedback. So keep it up. If you're part of Commaful, you're already on the right track. Try and make sure that you keep learning from your fellow writers, from the writing community about what can make a good story or what can make a good story better in the future. So take care. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to stay in touch with all of you going forward. Thank you.
If you found this interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and give a special thanks to our volunteer instructor. Reviews and likes really go a long way and help us provide more awesome writing resources to the Commaful community. If you aren't on Commaful yet, you can join a community of poets, short story authors, and fan fiction writers on Commaful.com.